Hi, y'all. We recorded this episode of the podcast with Chris Clem just before, well, it was just after they shot Trump, but before they killed Biden, which is kind of weird. They shot at Trump and killed Biden. But anyway, so this episode is before they took out Biden's clone. I just want to make a note of that when you watch it today. But it's a fabulous show with Chris Clem where I kept trying to draw him deeper and deeper into the matrix. And he handled it very, very well. It's a great podcast with a lot of great information. So enjoy it. So, anyway, here's my dates August 6th, 7th, and 8th. I'm going to be at the LOL Comedy Club in San Antonio, Texas. Tickets are on sale now at my website, roseannebarr.com.
Mhm.
And September 24th, I'll be with Tucker Carlson in Fort Worth at the Dickies Arena. So get your tickets at tuckercarlson.com. And make sure to subscribe at our new clips channel at www.youtube.com/at Roseanne Barr Clips. And if you haven't already, leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcast or Spotify, or else. Greetings, Earthlings and human beings, and of course, any animals that are enthralled with the sound of my voice. People are sending me the videos of their animals stunned and just like in ecstasy at the sound of my voice, because animals are smarter than humans and they recognize that a voice of sanity has pierced this unified field of bullshit. And animals just love me, and so do children, and so do broken people, because I'm here to heal them. Welcome to the Roseanne Barr podcast.
Oh, you see, my patience is growing thin.
Well, we've got a anger of a big show today. Great conversation. We can't stop talking until Jake said, "Mom, shut up. We got to do the show." I could talk to this guy all day, and he would be bored as shit. But no, it's a pleasure to introduce Chris Clem. Hi, Chris.
Hello, Roseanne, and I'm doing my animal head tilt because of the sound of your voice. I understand it. I love it.
The animal in you
Yeah,
is
that's right.
awakened.
That's right. It's
the
awakened.
primordial man.
That's right. Ready for this podcast.
One who is plugged into the true meaning of life.
That's right.
That we live, we love, and we die. Right?
That's absolutely right.
And in the meantime, we try to do as much good and help as many people as we can, right?
As much as we can while we're here on this planet. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And that's what I've dedicated the majority of my life and continue to do so and talk about what's going on out there that's impacting every one of us.
Well, I want you to, I'm so glad you're on, because we're going to talk about what people need to know and don't know, because we have just a circus as a media.
Yeah.
You know, they're just... Did you know that the assassination attempt on Trump, that was the first time the media ever agreed to carry one of his speeches live on television?
Isn't that very interesting that they did that? I mean, all the facts that are supposed facts are very hard to add up. I mean, again, yes, there was an attempt on his life, but yeah, all the major networks happened to be there. Just in Butler, Pennsylvania. Yeah, that does, it causes you to pause and think a little bit, doesn't it?
And of course, the saddest, most heinous thing is the man who actually lost his life. And I saw some video that showed smoke and a gunshot coming from behind the stage. Did you see that? And he went down from the back.
That I didn't see. I know there was a still shot of the bullet that had passed through Trump, either Trump's ear or right behind it, and Corey Compatore, I think is his name, was the one that dove down to save people, and he took the rounds.
That's who I'm talking about.
Right, yeah.
But there's another one. A gun is fired from behind the stage in the black curtains, and you hear it and see a puff of smoke.
I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah,
it's on the internet, and a man falls.
Yeah.
So a second man was shot too.
Wow. One of the things that I did...
We don't know how many people were shot.
Yeah, we will probably never get the facts, because even the initial facts from the FBI said they can't figure out motives. But
where the pipe bomb was?
Yeah.
Hey, I want to mention that man's name, and I was
Chris Compatore?
Yes.
Yeah.
And say that I was so touched by what President Trump said at the convention.
And also, can you just introduce who you are and
Yeah,
what you've done? Because
yeah.
we went right into it, but
Yeah, no, because we've been talking the whole
Yeah.
but no, my name is Chris Clem. I'm a retired Border Patrol Chief Patrol Agent. I spent 27 and a half years as a U.S. Border Patrol agent. I was all along the southwest border. I did some time in Washington, D.C., was the deputy chief in New Orleans, Louisiana, El Paso, Texas, and I finished the last 2 years of my career as the chief patrol agent in Yuma, Arizona. I worked for 5 administrations, started under Clinton, and after 2 years of Biden and just the stuff that was going on and complete dismantling of what we have done to secure our border, along with the fact that I lived away from my family for 9 of the last 10 years, I was ready to retire. I wasn't going to put up with this nonsense anymore. And yeah, and that's, what I've been doing. I've been retired from the government anyway for the last 18, 19 months. But I've been speaking the truth and the facts about what I've experienced over the breadth of my career there. And yeah, it was a great career, but it sure did get kind of crazy the last 2 years. And, I wasn't
So
going to
you're
sacrifice my integrity for that.
You're sort of a whistleblower then, huh?
Yeah, it's facts. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a registered whistleblower. But I am telling the truth, and to based on what I know, and answer any question truthfully. And I'll tell you if it's my opinion or if it's fact. And I'm certainly not going to divulge anything that was classified or something I couldn't divulge.
Mhm.
But if it's fact based and it's a question I know the answer to, I'll be glad to tell you.
all right, Ma, the Contagion kit from the Wellness Company. These things are selling like hotcakes. They're amazing, and they're very, very timely because we're not joking. Bird flu is coming.
It's on the way.
It's on the way, and
Coming
you need to
to a
have
theater near you.
Yeah, but it will actually cause damage. So you do need to have real medication when it comes, even if it's planned and manufactured. And Fauci's behind it. You want medications, so don't fuck around with
You
this.
want the right medication, right?
That's what
And you
this
want to have it on hand. That's the big thing, right? You want to get it as fast as you can.
Yes.
And so this is the only one of its kind, this prescription contagion emergency kit from the Wellness Company, because it provides you with a carefully selected assortment of effective medications from bird flu, COVID-19, and other respiratory illnesses. You get ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, HCQ, a Z-Pak, Tamiflu, and budesonide, along with a nebulizer, so you can rest easy knowing that you've got emergency meds on hand, along with a guidebook for safe use. Backed by research from experts like Dr. Peter Mercala, the Wellness Company's Contagion Emergency Kit is a must-have for every family. Every American should have at least one of these kits at hand at home.
100%.
Right? Avoid the chaos, wait time, and price of the hospital, and have exactly what you need for as low a cost as the price of, a single doctor's visit. And at the end of the day, just having those life-saving medications on hand, you won't have to think or worry about it. To be prepared for the unexpected, listeners can go to twc.help/RB and grab your contagion emergency kit right now. That's twc.help/RB and use promo code RB for 10% off and free shipping. Kits are only available in the USA. Well, here we are now, right? So what is the border looking like right now?
Well, it's still not as secure as we had it once. The numbers have dropped as far as the number of illegal entries, but that's because this is election year. I mean,
they had to crack
They
down
had to. I mean,
a little bit.
Go back to this past December, they were averaging 12,000 arrests a day. And one of the first polls that really sank President Biden on border security and immigration came out. Next thing you know, you have the Secretary of Homeland Security, Mayorkas, and Secretary of State Blinken go to Mexico, and all sorts of things kind of start being unveiled. They push a Senate bill. They start talking about executive orders. And this was an opportunity to try to make some changes to make the border look like it's more secure. But I can tell you that the numbers, we're still having 1,500 to 3,000 people a day arrested by Border Patrol and by the people at the ports, the Customs and Border Protection officers. And majority of them are still getting released into the country.
Wow.
And for the record,
Why are they arrested?
because they've entered illegally, and the
Okay.
Border Patrol's arrested them, but there's no place to put them, and so they end up getting released. The majority of them released to the communities. But I want to make it very clear: this year, even though the numbers are down right now, and the month of June was a low month, this year will be the third busiest year out of the 4 years under President Biden. So he didn't fix anything. It just is looking better right now.
Yeah.
Because if he
Because
could,
it's a photo op.
yeah,
Like
why
when
didn't
the
he do this
AOC
year?
went
Why didn't he do
down
this
there.
5 months into his administration as opposed to 5 months before the election?
Right.
Why did we have to suffer? Why did communities? Why did our agents? Why did our entire system of immigration enforcement, the integrity, why did that have to suffer? And you know what? Why did the migrants have to suffer?
Right.
You know, he could have done some things. Actually, if he'd have just left things alone, he would have been better
He
off.
dismantled all the protection.
Absolutely.
What kind of a president dismantles the protection of the people, of the country that he is serving as leader of?
One that's not putting America first, one that is not taking the best interest of the public safety and national security that comes with border security. You know, when we had official Twitter accounts and social media accounts, that was one of the first hashtags that I began back in 2018 was border security as national security. And it started off as a hashtag, but it has played out. It is a public safety and national security issue why we control our borders. Every country in the world does that.
Right.
Why would a president, and to your question, why would they do that? Out of spite, out of ineptitude, out of a purpose. And, you know, we can talk about that, but why would they do that to endanger communities and even the migrants themselves? You know, they talk about a humanitarian crisis at the border. Their policies are pull factors that actually put these people in the hand of smugglers and cartel members and allow them to be exploited. That doesn't make sense.
It does if you go all the way down the rabbit hole straight to the
Sure.
devil himself.
That's true. That's true.
Am I telling the truth?
I think you're telling the truth because, you know, we were talking about this, you know, before the show started. You know, our brain is designed to rationalize facts, right? And we don't
And to recognize them.
absolutely. But we don't hear what their end game is. But as we talked about, there are people in this administration, in their party,
And the other party too.
right, that
All
are
parties.
pushing power.
Right.
And
Power
you know,
over the
if
people.
we can, they want servants over citizens because eventually
That's right.
citizens will rise up and say enough's enough. Servants will continue to do what they're told, and if they can, you know, again,
I call it a return of Pharaoh
Yeah.
and his feudal system.
Yeah.
Everybody's a slave except Pharaoh and his hired guns, the lawyers. Like this was how it was in Egypt. The lawyers, the professors, the experts on everything, the doctors, the scientists, the astrologers, whatever they had back
Right.
then in Pharaoh's court, the courtiers. Aside from them and the people that they support, everybody else is,
yeah, I mean,
at poverty level.
yeah, everybody's in on it to some extent, at least in the elected officials, you know. And I think there's one party over the other party is playing it. But think about this: there was a vote to require proof of citizenship
And all
before
the-
and the Democrats went against
voted
it, right?
against
Right.
it. Right.
That makes no sense to me because, you know, it is reinforcing a consequence for those that are doing illegal acts of voting in a federal election. It reinforced that, hey, we are going to, you know, try to maintain some level of integrity. Again,
No integrity.
there's no integrity going on right now, but
They want to nullify the vote of
Right.
the American voters. And, they want to, as Obama said, plain as day, they want to fundamentally change this country. He didn't say to what, but I think we know now, don't we?
well, we're seeing that play out, right? Through all these open, pull factors is what we call them, encouraging this mass migration, this mass illegal migration. There's literally been, 8, 9 known illegal entries under this administration. And to what we were talking about just a few seconds ago.
Are you talking about terrorists?
Well, they're in that bunch.
Yeah.
We know that. But, when you look at trying to change the population centers, change the vote, the electoral college, it all starts with population to get representation.
Right.
Yeah,
So-
at the same time, they're telling school kids white people are evil.
Right.
It kind of lines up, don't it?
Yeah, they're playing all these games. America needs to stop and pause and realize what's going on.
Mhm.
And when you're seeing people being displaced for illegal migrants that are being housed,
Schools and hospitals.
when we have homeless veterans and homeless children and hungry veterans and hungry children that are not prioritized, but people that have entered the country illegally, 72 hours later they're making demands in Denver, Colorado for better, for we demand this, when they're put up in 5-star hotels in New York and given debit cards, yet we have homeless and hungry veterans and U.S. citizens here.
Yeah.
That's a problem. That charity starts at home.
The degradation of our veterans, it could not get more devilish than that.
Yeah, no, it's very tough, and it makes I am not a military veteran. I joined the Border Patrol right out of college, but Customs and Border Protection, the Border Patrol's parent agency, is one of the largest veteran employers in the federal government. So it's equally frustrating for the agents and officers to say, hey, we are catching and releasing these people that are getting benefits that yet they're themselves are having to wait in the VA for months at a time to get checkups.
Let's talk about the mental health resiliency of our law enforcement and the effect of them working in an insane, upside down, make no sense, back assward day, everyday system.
Yeah, it's true, right? So this administration was really one of the first ones that really kind of turned my stomach on especially the Border Patrol. I mean, we started this administration's election campaign was abolish ICE, which is a sister agency of ours, defund the police, all that kind of stuff. Yet we're the ones that are actually doing the best we can to make America safe, and we're going to be responding to your emergency calls. And when you see
first responders,
right, absolutely, right. And the Border Patrol in particular went from President Trump, who championed the Border Patrol, who gave us the resources and was, and I want to make this very clear, and we'll get to why I'm talking about mental health and resiliency here, is when Trump talked about building the wall when he was a candidate and he actually did it, those were requirements for Border Patrol. It wasn't just the wall. It was the lights, the technology, the sensors, the roads. This was years and decades of requirements.
To keep them alive and safe so they could do their job.
He made it happen, and this administration turned it all back on day one.
Well, they demonized all of it.
Right. September of 2021, the world saw on display what was considered this horse patrol incident in Del Rio, Texas, where they claimed that they were whipping the migrants, and President Biden said those agents will pay. Never before did I see in my world, could I imagine, the President of the United States was calling out a law enforcement and was demonizing them, saying they were going to pay, when he knew, or at least the people that report to him knew, that was not the case. The photographer said there's no whips. Nobody got whipped. Those were split reins to how we control horses. I was 1,000 miles away in Yuma, Arizona, and I wanted to throw up. I could not believe.
They still say it.
Yeah, they still. They were using that incident to deflect from the 16,000 people that had crossed in 72 hours in Del Rio, Texas, that was causing complete chaos. This was an opportunity for them to demonize the Border Patrol and not talk about the problem that they created.
Well, it's all to back up their racism fundraising tools.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And that goes back to the agents had to endure this every day. And I thought, wow. I have a
let's talk about agents who are, largely veterans. Diet Smoke. It's setting a new gold standard with their latest creation, the Acapulco Gold Gummy, packed with 200 milligrams of potent THC. You don't want to miss this limited edition gummy. With Diet Smoke's 100% lifetime happiness guarantee, you can experience their products risk-free. They're so confident that you'll love it, they'll replace it or give you your money back, no questions asked. Plus, they offer nationwide 2-day delivery, so you can enjoy your gummies quickly, no matter where you are.
That's really important. Just so you understand, it's not easy to get gummies, shall we say, in every state. This makes it easy, and that's a big deal.
Head over to dietsmoke.com and use the promo code RB at checkout for a fantastic 20% off your entire order, plus a $50 welcome bundle on the house.
Wow.
Don't miss out. Grab your Acapulco Gold today and experience the best in premium infused edibles. Visit dietsmoke.com and use the promo code RB to score your discount and welcome bundle. And remember, with Diet Smoke, it's not light, it's just right.
Yeah. So a lot of them have gone to war. They've been in theater. They've seen the horrors of war. Some suffer from traumatic episodes, and they're dealing with that. And then you bring them to the border, and they've got a great agency that is championed by a commander-in-chief. And to have that all kind of turned away, we started seeing those problems. We actually, Border Patrol and its parent agency, Customs and Border Protection, had 22 suicides back in 2022. 14 of them were Border Patrol agents.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And two of them, one of them worked directly for me. One of them had been detailed to my sector during the time. And I'm not going to say that the border crisis caused that, but
it did.
It could be a compounding factor.
It didn't help.
Well, if you don't feel that your value or you have a purpose anymore, like you're not doing this, and maybe they're suffering from financial or emotional or physical issues at home, but then they come to work and they feel like everything I'm doing is
well, a lot
backwards,
of people
right?
who took a vow to protect this country do it because they have a sense of purpose.
Right.
And when you remove their sense of purpose and demonize it, you destroy a soul.
Right. And again, the law enforcement, military, there's just that we don't talk about our problems. That culture, we had to change that. And so you still have to roll up your sleeves and get busy, but it's okay to talk about the problems. And I think that's one of the things that, that has changed a little bit for the better, because right now we know, hey, we can't change policies under this administration, but
there are no policies.
Right. Well, there's certainly not ones that are helping us secure the border. So let's talk about and invest in our agents. And that's one of the things that I was doing as chief. And then what I've been doing since I've retired is, I working on a foundation, Sports Legends, supporting border heroes. So we get, people that have a platform. Like we've brought, dozens of former NFL players. Brian Urlacher, who's a Hall of Famer. Randy Grimes, who's an All-Pro. Dan Pastorini, Mike Barber, all these Houston Oilers, because we're in Texas right now. So we talk about the legacy Oilers, have come down the border to thank them. Yeah. Thank the agents. That, hey, people love you and we depend on you and things are going to get better.
That
and yes, it reinforces. Because when I was chief, I wasn't feeling it either. And so I'd have to go up there and address the troops. I'm like, guys, we're all in this together. So let's invest in each other.
Well, I imagine the things they see, going deeply into the subject of, their PTSD and horror at seeing war and participating in it. And then they have to see what must be horrific things done to children.
Yeah. So when you see women, men, young boys, young girls, infants coming across the border that have been traumatized, that have been assaulted, that have been exploited along the journey. And when their most safest moment is when they're actually in our custody, and then to have that blasted by, political advocates and everything, say, oh, Border Patrol is dehumanizing them, or they're bad people. They create the victim boogeyman, when the reality is the safest they've been in that journey is when they've been in the custody of the Border Patrol, because we're the one that's going to get them the medical attention, get them to the victim assistance programs, that get, maybe if we're lucky, get a hold of the bad guy and impose a consequence. But this narrative does not get told, and so goes back to the whole mental health. When you can only see and endure this so much, right?
Well, you can only take the bullshit world. That's why I started this podcast like that. Yeah. When you are a living soul who's connected to your maker, and you're living in a bullshit world where everything's just an upside down devilish lie, you might lose it if somebody doesn't remind you, as I was reminded when I needed it, that there's a lot of love out there from a lot of people who know. Yeah. And they need to know that we're here for each other.
We have, when I was the deputy chief in in El Paso sector, we had a young lady die in Border Patrol custody. Well, actually, she went into a coma. She was life flighted to El Paso. She eventually died later on. She was with her father, part of a group of 300 that had crossed it in the wee hours of the night. There was only one paramedic in Hidalgo County, New Mexico at the time. It was a Border Patrol agent. When she passed out at the station, it was the Border Patrol agents that began the life-saving, efforts. That just, thank goodness, by the grace of God, the paramedic was working and sustained her life, got her to the hospital through life flight. Unfortunately, she passed because she had all sorts of problems with her before she even crossed the border. But there are members of the Democratic Party that were called us murderers, that called the commissioner, the chief, and as sector staff, you guys caused this. Wow. No, we actually gave her a fighting chance. It was actually the smuggling, it was actually the parents, it was actually the policies that they felt that they could come in here. And because there was such a fight to try to secure the border, and at the time, under President Trump, he was trying, but the Democrats were fighting that. But yet, back to the mental health, our agents did everything they could to save their life, yet they were demonized. Right. And that didn't change.
By demons, though.
Yes, yeah.
That's what people have to realize, how many demons are in charge.
That's why they call it demonizing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I said that's why they call it demonizing. It's not true, but it is true.
No, it is true.
In some of these remote
they
areas,
always cast an evil spell on people who might expose them.
Yeah.
Because the real truth is, well, I'll get to this at the end.
Yeah.
We already...
There's a few.
But I want to, the border, we operate in urban, rural, remote areas. Sometimes we're the only law enforcement and only medical in a community.
Right.
And so we conduct rescues not only of people that have crossed illegally, but also of citizens that are out there hiking. I mean, I think the number was like 28,000 different rescues last year. Wow. When you have a small community EMS system and there's a triage of calls going on, it's oftentimes the Border Patrol that is the first responder out there, because we have the advanced training out there, and no one wants to talk about that because that's a good story. They want to say, oh, Border Patrol is bad, and if you build a wall, you force them out there and put them into those remote areas. No, you build a wall to secure America and secure the border, and then people come in the right way, or you have the right policies.
Well, they're vetted. Like you wouldn't leave your door open, and Yeah. The real truth is so ugly.
Yeah.
A lot of people won't even speak it because it will turn people off.
Yeah.
Like they say, it's your choice to know.
Yeah.
But if you choose not to know.
Yeah, you can stick your head in the sand all day long, but you really have to have your head under a rock in a hole in Antarctica and not see what's happening right here in the United States when it comes down to, again, my expertise, where I spent my career, is in border security. And, it all starts with that secure border. Look, we're all about lawful immigration. We need to always have that avenue.
Yeah.
I like to refer to it as tall fences and wide gates. And Senator Fred Thompson, the late great Senator Fred Thompson.
Most of our families came here through legal immigration.
Right.
In America.
He said that in the 2008 primary.
And
it resonated with me, and I've used that as a catapult for where we need to go. But it all starts with the secure border. The wide gates, that's the lawful pathways coming in the right way, that we can open and close based on what this country needs and what the world can need for us, right?
But I love that they're making the American worker, because it's all about that, really.
Right.
They're making the American worker pay taxes to take care of the... Are they invaders?
Well, I mean, at some point you gotta acknowledge what is happening, right? So just to close that one point, nothing begins if we don't secure the border.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So I don't want to ever get lost on that. Until we get the border secure, we can't even begin to address the lawful pathways and clean up the mess that has been created over the decades of this immigration system. Back to who and what is crossing and why, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you, in the last, we had 1.6 million come across in 2021, 2.2 million. We're at 1.7 million now. So add that up, it's close to 8 million people, known crossers. Plus, there's about 1.8 million known gotaways, meaning we have documented an entry, but we never resolved it. And in that are criminals, would-be terrorists. I mean, because we've caught those. So statistically speaking, we know that is going to be in that gotaway.
How many smugglers?
Well, they're all part of it, but the smuggling situation has changed so much. Back in the day when I first started, the smuggler actually crossed the border with them and took them to their final destination.
Right.
But because of social media and the internet, interconnectedness is global. Everything is done on the phone and through
That's right.
technology. So the smuggler now just has to get them to the gap in the border, and then they cross and they turn themselves over to the Border Patrol. And because of our catch and release policies and the
Yes.
fact that this administration has reduced detention, the U.S. government is completing the smuggling cycle.
Yeah.
When we
Right.
catch somebody and have to release them, and a non-government organization helps facilitate their movement to wherever they want to go.
And American workers are paying for it through their taxes, and they are paying for people who will come in and work for less than union wages.
Yeah, here's a matter
They're
of fact for
it's
you.
all about self-destruction.
Here's a matter of fact for you. Last year, it was reported that Border Patrol released 900,000 people into the communities because we didn't have a place to detain them and they weren't being removed.
Mom, Home Chef is a company we've used quite a bit. That's the one we made last. I don't know if you know the name of the company, but you order the food. It's pre-portioned. All the ingredients are there. And we made one last night that was
Full-on gourmet too. It's stuff you won't find, and when you try to put it together yourself, forget about it.
No, you
gotta-
look like you know what you're doing when you cooked it. It was actually really, really good. And the cool thing about this company is that it's whatever they send you, it's all pre-portions, all ready to go. You cook and do it all, and you can prepare a really delicious gourmet meal at home in less than 30 minutes, which we don't have a lot of time these days.
Because last night we did the butternut squash fig with blue cheese risotto and walnuts. I mean, it was like going to a 5-star restaurant, wasn't it?
It was, and it's not like an MRE where you just get a little foil kit and it's horrible. This is like this is high quality food, and we've sold their stuff before. We've always loved it.
Right, we like it.
And what's really good about it, not only is it easy, but it's important to note that customers save an average of $86 a month on groceries. So basically, you order the pre-portioned meal, you get all the groceries. You don't waste groceries. You and I go through our fridge. I call you Bubby because we have vegetables we don't eat, and they go bad. This is just the ingredients you need for these meals, and with that, you're not wasting food. Yeah, so you save money, easy. You look good, you eat good. It's a win-win. So tell the people a little bit more.
Well, for a limited time, Home Chef is offering my listeners 18 free meals plus free dessert for life.
Wow.
And of course, free shipping on your first box. So go to homechef.com/Roseanne. That's homechef.com/Roseanne for 18 free meals and free dessert for life. homechef.com/Roseanne. And you must be an active subscriber to receive your free dessert for life.
When I was chief in Yuma, we were spending approximately $400,000 to $450,000 a day on a soft-sided processing facility that included medical, laundry services, caretaking services, and processing of all the people we were catching. So that's about, and there were 6 other sectors along the southwest border that were about spending the same amount. So that's roughly $2.5 million a day. Now, we wouldn't release people to the street because the communities couldn't absorb it. So there was non-government organizations that were taking the migrants in and helping.
You mean like NGOs?
Yes, NGOs. The volunteer groups, Red Cross groups, things like that. And I don't want to broad brush them. They're all bad. There are some good ones, and there's some ones that I think are very profitable nonprofits. Let's think. So we're spending roughly
exploiters.
Yeah, absolutely. We're roughly spending $2.5 million a day. The NGOs get reimbursed by FEMA under the
government money, American taxpayer dollars,
help facilitate that movement. Yet recently, you heard the mayor of New York. You had the governor of New York, and I think even the governor of Chicago, or governor of Illinois, and the mayor of Chicago demand up to $5 billion of reimbursement in the president's budget because of the amount they're spending on these migrants. So technically, we could be paying for each one of those migrants 3 times for that crossing. The American taxpayer.
Yeah, it's all to impoverish the American worker.
Yeah,
I can't believe these. Excuse me for I say French, but it's English. It's like I grew up. I grew up in the streets, It's like they're making us pay for our own fucking death.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
And then they're jabbing us in the eye with God knows what,
Yeah.
saying white people are demons.
no.
Or the
I
replacement
mean,
theory
this
is a
is
conspiracy.
this is Nazism 101. Hello.
You know,
But it's commie too. But they always go together, like National Socialism. Hitler and Stalin were in business together with the Russian, what a Hitler-Stalin pact.
Mhm.
They was in a. They
it's
were
all communism, it's all socialism, and that's being pushed down
and
here.
it's all
Yeah.
fascism
Yep.
too.
Yeah, yeah. The
It's
people
just
that
the
call
arms
fascist,
dealers in charge of everything. The worst people. Like, I wanted to get into that with you, and we will. But anyway, excuse my outburst.
No, that's okay.
Continue.
No. You kind of talked about invaders a minute ago, and I was explaining, the amount of people and the type of people. I read something recently that I think there's 193 known governments or countries in this world.
Yeah, it's one of them. Thank you.
The Border Patrol apprehended people from 177 of those under this administration. So,
What's the usual number?
what,
Trump?
golly, it's changed so much, right? So this is not, it used to be just a hemispheric, it was a Central American and Mexico problem,
Right.
but over the last few years, it has just changed to a global phenomenon. And when I was
It's
chief,
global.
yeah, when I was chief in Yuma, we caught in 2021 116 different countries, and I think 117 different countries the next year. Rarely did Mexico or Central America make my top 10 daily or weekly numbers. It was
Wow.
people from all over the world, and that puts an enormous strain on all our resources because we all speak Spanish. And then we have to use translation services for non-Spanish speaking and non-English speaking countries. And that just begins to be a burden and creates a vulnerability.
Well, the left hooked up its big ass hose to the federal government
Oh, yeah.
money.
Yeah.
That's what happened.
Yeah.
That's what they always do. And then they, like Ava Perón in them,
Yeah.
even though they pretended to be nationalists, but it's just hooking up to the big public trough.
So
Well,
they get a cut, basically. I mean,
Yeah.
that's
Oh, yeah.
pretty
Well, I mean,
obvious.
it all, at the end of the day, it's always follow the money, right?
It's follow where public monies are put into private pockets
Right, sure.
under these NGOs and these private contractors, which that now we have to discuss the good news.
Yeah.
But do you have any more that you want to say on that subject?
I would just, people always ask me now because they hear so much about the NGOs is, look, if you want to help and you feel compelled to donate, do it locally. Go to your local
Yes.
church or
Don't do
local
nothing
food
big.
bank,
Nothing
your
big.
local shelter where you
That's a
know
great
people. If you want to if you send it to some national, non-government the likelihood of that getting to where you want it to go,
It don't go
it's not going to go there. Go to your local food bank. Go to your local.
You know where
volunteer
it
groups.
goes?
That's a great point.
All the NGOs building terror tunnels.
Well, there's all sorts of stuff going on, right?
Mhm.
One other thing too, and I think it'll segue either right now or later in the show here is, and I don't ever when I talk, I don't ever want to broad brush a culture or demographic or race. I don't think that's fair.
I
But
love it.
But China is our biggest geopolitical threat. We know that,
I know.
right? They're-
Don't we
yeah,
know
yeah,
that?
Yeah, and
Have
yet
we been lulled into such complacency?
think about what. Yeah,
Are there a
think
lot of Chinese coming over? Is that
That's what I wanted to talk about, right?
Yeah, please.
So in 2022, I think the number was around 450 illegal Chinese nationals, across the border illegally. Last year, it went up to over 24,000 or over 25,000.
There you go.
So far this fiscal year, it has exceeded 25,000. So roughly 50,000
wow?
Chinese nationals has entered the U.S. illegally in the last 18 to 24 months.
And they have means for the most
A
part.
lot of them
right?
have means, right? But
They
you
have
don't
backing and sponsors.
Yeah,
They
because
don't-
you just
they don't
can't
come here
leave China. You
homeless.
just
This isn't
can't
a
leave
Yeah, you
asylum.
can't leave China.
And they're going to Mexico,
Mhm.
which means they're in the smuggling routes. They're being hooked up. And even if just a small percentage of those 50,000 are bad,
Right.
because the way this operates and the way we know China is operating is they're playing the long game.
Oh,
So
yeah.
these people are
They have
subject to
patience.
coercion and potential espionage. And again, even if just a small percentage, if 1% or less than 1% of that 50,000 want to do us harm, that's a problem. And we know, and we'll talk about this, where is that poison fentanyl coming from? We
China.
know it's coming
China.
from China.
Right.
Coming to Mexico, into the labs and getting smuggled in. Again, this is why
Everybody's dying right and left from that.
there's 300 people a day dying from fentanyl and opioid poisonings across this country. That's a plane crash a day.
I knew that because when I went back
Through
to
the border.
television, my whole last season before they axed me was about opioid addiction.
Yeah, that's a crisis that, again, people, are always looking for that next level high, and fentanyl is 100 times more than morphine and heroin, and so
it is.
Yeah,
I don't know what's the attraction of it. I don't.
Oh, it's a great high.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What does it just put you to sleep?
Just knocks you down,
opioids
right?
just put you out,
and that's what it does. And you see these,
so you don't have to feel anything.
I guess I just know it as I see the results of people that have been poisoned, and know families who have lost their children to this poison. We don't call it overdose because here's the thing: that fentanyl is coming in almost, it's like raw form to these clandestine labs in Mexico, and they're pressed into pills, and the same Percocet that's been done illegally is in the same presser as fentanyl. So there was a DEA stat that said 7 out of 10 of the black market pills have fentanyl, deadly fentanyl in it.
Oh my goodness!
So if people are buying things off the black market, off the web, or from a non-pharmacist,
or from their maid,
or something like that, yeah, you never know. I mean, and that's why, when I say border security is national security and public safety, we have got to shut this down, because this stuff is coming in through our borders, and
it's with deadly intent too.
Yeah,
it's not just to turn a buck like the old heroin.
No. There's a lot of people out there, and I always would tell you, I would think, why would any drug dealer want to kill off its clientele? But people are wanting that high.
Yeah.
And
actually, that sells it. It's like, this shit's going to kill you. I want some of that.
And
a lot of people are suicidal, and maybe they choose it.
Well, and everybody reacts differently. The same type of prescription.
My sister wanted me to get her fentanyl so she could kill herself.
Yeah.
And she goes, I know people, and she says, you'd put me down if I was a dog and I was suffering like this, because she got the vax.
Yeah.
And she felt like she was on fire, her body, and she couldn't live with it.
Yeah.
So she kept on begging for fentanyl, and she goes, all you have to do is just go to Las Vegas and ask any of the performers and I'm like, I cannot help you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can get it anywhere, and it's
but I think a lot of people want to die, and that's why they're doing it.
Well, they want to get high.
Yeah,
then maybe die.
No, I think they want to end their lives.
Maybe.
Well, we're dealing with a very different world nowadays, right?
A hopeless world where there's no, people know that. I mean, there's two things happening right now. There's people who are happy about, part of, and maybe in dismay over the destruction of the United States of America and our constitutional republic. Yeah. Some people are happier than hell about it.
No, this is designed. That's what we should be talking about. It's
totally designed. Yeah. And some people are horrified and dismayed about it, but they're in PTSD trauma because every single day something traumatic happens, and we end up in suspended animation with the traumatic event shown over our television, because we're in constant trauma.
Yeah.
But some of us who've healed from trauma, we can see that we have crossed the Rubicon.
I don't disagree. When you see everything, on your screens, on your social medias, on TV, and the reporters and the news stories are always, maligned to, I don't say aligned, but maligned, to the negative, right? And your body, your brain we're part of being human is nurture and life and living. And when you're just bombarded with all this negative, and and it's done intentionally, it's crazy. And that goes back to one of the questions you asked earlier. Why would a president do this? And I take it right back to the whole border security piece. That is America's first line of defense, is our border security.
Whoa.
Our Border Patrol agents, our agents at the ports, our immigration enforcement officers, our law enforcement. And when you demonize them, when you handcuff them, no pun intended, with to try to do this, and you make it so difficult, it is putting America at risk. It has put in America lives at stake. And this
Well,
makes
isn't
no
it
sense.
fundamentally transforming America, as Obama said?
That's true, right? We were going to
Well said.
fundamentally change the United States. I think that's what
Yeah.
the former president said back when he was campaigning and took over in 2008 and 9. You know, that is what's happened, right? Because, you know, whether people liked it or not, Trump was making one of the biggest. Well,
Because white people are the devil.
Well, that's what they claim,
and
right?
they are killing them, you know,
We're
in South
Nazis for wanting a
Africa,
border.
you know, and they're killing what they consider to be white people in Israel because they're European occupiers. It is so racist and so filthy. And, you know, they're all making bank on it. But what nobody's saying is how our entire legislators, including the highest branch of this phony, traitorous government, is owned by a foreign entity. For God's sake, is nobody ever going to say it?
Yeah.
And they're beholden to their, as I say in my act, baby blood drinking Democrat donors.
Wow. Yeah.
And it is the truth.
Yeah.
And it is the devil. And they are sadists and they are Nazis. They were brought here after World War II in Operation Paperclip, and they slowly infiltrated with their tolerant horse shit.
Yeah.
And they went to China, where I said, and everyone said I was a racist. I'm not a racist. I hate all races equally.
I think you said a good quote about you're a good judge of people. You don't like any of them or
I don't
something.
like
like
none
that.
of them. Hell
So,
yeah.
You know, it's funny. America, when it comes to border security and immigration, is racist when there's conservatives in charge. But let me take you
well,
back.
they hate white people.
Let me
Let's
take-
be real.
let's-
They hate white people.
Yeah.
I can say it because I'm a Sephardic Jew.
Yeah.
They hate the white people. Everything they talk about. Joy Reid, are you shitting
Yeah,
me? She
yeah.
says it plain as day.
But
here's something
I
that's
hate
funny.
white people.
When it
And then
com-
she shaved her head because everybody said, you're culturally appropriating Trump's hair. So she shaved her head.
That's true. I remember that. You know, go back to 1994 State of the Union address under President Clinton. He talked about illegal immigration, the need for border security, and he commissioned Barbara Jordan.
I know he's eating snake.
The former Congresswoman, African American Congresswoman Barbara Jordan was commissioned, and she talked about
Well, she's in that lesbian witch mafia that I used to be part of in Hollywood.
So you knew
All the lesbian witches are in charge of all the PR.
But you're saying Clinton was in charge doing
She
the
was
same
a
thing.
lesbian witch
we
too.
talked about
She was
border
in the
security.
coven.
Just keep talking.
in that
Hillary
state.
was
So
in
you
the
just gotta-
lesbian witch
gotta
coven.
get
I
louder.
was in it myself.
Yeah.
We deal with this every episode.
So
I'm sorry.
No, no.
Go ahead.
The point being is, the people that will point the fingers and yell the loudest are the ones that are creating the problem.
Yeah.
Yet,
Yeah,
what I want to say
because
is,
they're fundraising off it.
that's right. So Clinton started the first conversation in a decade about the need for border security.
Yeah.
I know.
He ran
And
on
yet now you have and actually I was hired under Clinton. I started under Clinton. Then you had Bush building wall. You had Obama building wall. You had Trump finishing the deal, like really making it happen, only to have it completely unraveled.
Yeah, because Obama changed his mind, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. He realized that
Well, he
this
had to
wasn't
get
going to work.
elected. He knew what he had to do to get
Yeah.
elected. It was all part of the plan because China is heavily involved with the Biden crime family
Yeah.
before he got elected.
Well, they
took
own him.
money.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah,
He's an
why else
asset.
did 50,000 come in? So I mean,
Let's
again,
paint
whether
it.
we're right or wrong,
What do you
we have
think
to talk
they're
about
here
it.
for?
Well, as I was mentioning, I don't want to be right on this, right? But as a career law enforcement, you have to plan for these type of situations. So it is.
Well, they're military-age men,
most
right?
of them are all military-age men.
Yeah.
And there's a saying that men don't leave their families unless they're going to war.
That's right.
So when you see the majority of people from 18 to 35 coming in, and I've been out there on that border recently as 3 weeks ago, but I've been out there in some of these last few months and seen 700 people lined up in Lukeville, Arizona. 500 of them are single adult men,
No
and only
women,
200 are families,
Yeah.
and they're from all over the world.
Yeah.
That is not normal.
No.
Trump said they're emptying their prisons and their crazy houses.
So
That's true.
houses.
we know that that's a fact for the
That is
Venezuelan gang, the
Yeah.
Tren de Aragua, the
Yes.
TDA. That is a prison gang that's coming in. They've been suspected and under arrest for some of the heinous crimes that have happened here with the murders and rapes.
Yeah.
That is an organized crime. when he said
It's
that,
an organized rape gang.
yeah, absolutely. They all those big gangs like the MS-13, the TDA, all the Serrano games. That's what they do. That's power and control.
Well, Ma, we're in Texas, and Kamala is the worst border czar in history, and we know the Democrats are going to cheat and probably steal the election. So it's looking like
She
another.
said the borders are. She says so herself after she said she was.
That's
She
true.
said what?
I forgot to research on Google, and I'm remembering what actually happened. That's my mistake. But all joking aside, this is a very serious subject. This is like the number one killer in America, which is fentanyl. That's what killed George Floyd. And I know that sounds like a joke, but that is true. It's killing children. It's coming across the border through the cartels. China is flooding it. And basically, here's what it is. If you don't know what fentanyl is, it's a super opiate, gets you super high, but it only takes a little bit to kill you. It kills you. There's a 6-year-old girl. I met her mother. They were staying in a motel on a road trip. The little girl touched the doorknob and died instantly. Just from fentanyl being on the doorknob. It kills kids. It's not just a drug. It can be on a surface. So this company that we love is the fentanyltest.com. And what they have is they have different tests. They have tests for Border Patrol agents who can test urine of people crossing the border. But what we're specifically interested in is the surface test, which is basically you can rub on a surface the strip test and it'll tell you if it tests positive for fentanyl. So if you're worried with your kid and doorknobs and wherever, you can see it. These tests are life-saving, literally. And another thing is, I don't condone drug use. I do a podcast with my mother who's high most of the time, but
Oh my God.
I'm joking. But the heavier stuff, the cocaine, a lot of people that do those kinds of heavier recreational drugs, they are mixed in because they're coming illegally through the cartel with fentanyl and killing a lot of people. And a lot of people don't want to test their drugs because when you test your cocaine, for instance, with the tests that are on the market now, it actually destroys your cocaine. This company, and again, I don't condone drug testing or drug using, but they actually have a drug detecting test that you can actually swipe a drug you're doing illegally, have fun. I'm a libertarian with this stuff, but you can actually test for fentanyl without destroying your product.
It's better to be safe than sorry. And, to be perfectly safe, you wouldn't be doing any drugs, but we don't want to lose you if you're young and you're experimenting, but, stay safe and think about stopping doing it at all. But,
Absolutely. When we were at Skankfest, I don't know if you know this, when you were on stage, they tested somebody had coke, I guess. And there was fentanyl, and it would have, if they didn't test it, there would have been 5 or 6 people that died in front of you while you were doing that podcast in the crowd. That's how that. And
we try to kill on stage there, but
yeah. Anyway,
I like seeing that.
Don't mess around with fentanyltest.com. And there are other ones on the market. This is the best. It's the only one I know of that's FDA approved. And this is a company we really, really, really believe in, and don't mess around. So go to the fentanyltest.com and be sure to use the promo code RB10. Let them know we sent you. They'll give you a percentage off. It's a win-win all around. Don't fuck around with this stuff. For real.
Well, the first thing any invader conqueror does is rape all the women.
Right.
I mean, that's what horses do.
Yep.
Horses will kick a pregnant horse's stomach to remove the fetus so they can impregnate her with their...
Well, we see that
that's
Animal
how
Kingdom,
it
right?
goes.
And that's what the grizzly will come and do it and eat the cubs, and I mean that happens, right? But when President Trump was candidate Trump, he said that he was demonized for it because it was the fact, and people, it didn't go with the narrative. And now the same things that he's saying have played out now. And then there's a whole nother argument when people will say, oh, well, Americans commit more crimes than the illegals that are here, or the migrants. Well, that's apples and rocks. Todd Benson talks about that in one of his articles about you can't compare.
Americans, they used to say that about men and women, and I was involved in all that for a million years. But the reason most women are in prison is because they wrote a bad check to feed their kids. Yeah. And a lot of them are crazy and killed their kids too, or let their boyfriend kill them. But the common denominator is economic, except for psychopaths and perverts.
Yeah.
They get joy out of rape and murder.
Well, that's a control thing that they do for power. You mentioned economics.
That's why Hitler unleashed his street gangs.
Well, we all
It
know
was
that.
for terror.
Sure, because that's how you stroke fear, and then that's how you come to the government. We will protect you, and
Right.
that goes back to creating the servants.
Right.
You
That's
mentioned
so right, man.
you mentioned economics. That's a whole nother. And these are economic migrants, is the way we
Yes.
call it. They're not asylum seekers. Very few of them are actually seeking asylum because they are, they are coming here looking for work. They're looking for jobs. They may live in a rough neighborhood or have a bad life, but it doesn't meet the bar for asylum. They're not being persecuted for their race, religion,
Right.
political
Right.
affiliation, or their sexual orientation, or anything like that. It's they can't find a job. And they're coming over here because they're being promised a better life,
Right.
and while we have our own people suffering here. So while I agree, we can still be that beacon of hope for those that are truly being persecuted and tortured around the world.
Yeah, we can help them go back home and overthrow that shit-ass government.
Absolutely.
Or grant them asylum if it's necessary. It's just
for that very small faction that
what is
truly.
the percentage in your opinion?
Well, I can tell you that the bar was maybe 90% would not meet the asylum criteria. But they were allowing the initial credible fear claim.
Right.
They were approving those, at a 70.
That's like when AOC
But
says they're just trying
somebody
to get
said
here,
a
but
lot
they're-
of the credible fear claim is because they're afraid of the United States in their country. It's like a double-edged crazy
hadn't heard
thing.
that.
Like,
Well-
they oppose American intervention in their country, so they want to come to America. And a lot of them are angry.
And that's like reverse osmosis, right? It's just something.
No.
I don't know.
Just
No,
bullshit.
it's street
Bullshit.
gangs to help terrorize the American people.
Well, yeah. I guess what I'm getting at is the people that are claiming fear, they don't really meet that criteria. But this administration has taken a very laxed, approach on that because that's a pull factor. They can say, hey, this becomes a lawful pathway if we allow them to come in here and claim this fear. It's just creating the chaos.
You think they're doing it to get them mass amnesties to be
Oh
voters?
yeah, we already.
What about turning a red state purple? Is that
Yeah, I
is
think
that part of
I
it?
think that goes back to
It's one of 'em.
Why
One of the
would
reasons.
anybody allow this? No other country in the world is allowing this type of unlawful immigration, this illegal aliens to come in like this. No other country in the world is doing that. So again, to what we were talking about,
No
why
country
would
in
they
history has done that.
exactly right? Why would they allow this unless there was that ulterior motive? And as I was mentioning when we were talking earlier,
What if it's
they just
what
told
if-
us that? At least we knew what the enemy was and how we were fighting it. That's why people were bashing.
How would you put it in plain English? If they were to tell us the truth, what would they say?
I would think they would say, hey, we want to remain in power. We want to change red states to purple and purple to blue. We want to take blue states and blue areas and make it solid blue. That is because that's the only rational thought that I can make
I
of this.
think
And
so, too.
I mean, I wish I was wrong, but I would rather go through life with two black eyes, seeing it come, than the knife in the back. That I
No
think this is
kidding.
betrayal that is happening. For
Oh,
this
the knife in
administration.
the back hurts. That
I would
happened to
add
me.
to that also cartels, money, kickbacks, human trafficking,
Yeah,
child
baby
trafficking.
blood drinking Democrat
Yeah,
donors.
it's not just hey, we got new
They
voters.
are
It's
the
like hey, we got
cartels.
a business import export.
Yeah, Jake, you're right because
Always have.
the cartel is the president.
They're in
so,
line.
So when they actually, I think there was a study and your audience can do the research and correct me on it, but I remember reading something recently, at least in the last year or so, that the gross domestic product, the GDP of Mexico, from some of the what the cartels were making off of human trafficking and smuggling was like 1 or 2 compared to the overall GDP of Mexico.
No, it's number one business in the world.
do the math. I mean,
Yeah.
if we just
Okay,
had,
let's talk math then. Jake, you've got to let me have a cigarette in here like you did the other day.
I can't.
You can. Go
We've
get
only
me a
we've
cigarette.
only recorded for 45 minutes. You can't go 45 minutes.
I can't. Go get me a cigarette because
I
I'm
can't.
about to go deep.
Then-
Go do it.
No, I'm not. Can we?
Would you go get me a cigarette,
Can-
baby?
Do you want us to be in here when she's smoking?
He sure does.
I don't care. I sure
He's
do.
gone through hell and high
In fact,
water.
I'll have a cigarette with her.
Fuck yeah, bitch.
If you'll let me do that.
Yeah, Jake,
All
do it. Would you go do it?
No, I
It's
can
out
do it.
on
Just
that
let me just.
I'll spray it like I got that Febreze.
Why do you think there's candles in here? She smoked the last episode, and I knew it's like the border. I let her smoke one time, and look what she's doing. She's over.
Okay, I'll give you a raise if you. I'm giving you a raise if you let.
Don't give me a raise. Just give me a percentage of the podcast. How about
I thought I already did.
No,
It's a big zero. We don't make any money. We got deregarded or something by the commies at YouTube.
Oh yeah.
Woo, that one. I'm going to say this. You know I'm a Jew, right?
Right.
Well, I'm a real Jew, right? And, well, they shouldn't be trying to fuck with a real Jew. I mean, for real, right?
Right.
What are they going around saying all this shit?
Yeah.
Jews control the world. They say it day in, day out. But they,
recording. I'll be right back.
I know,
Yeah.
but they don't think about that when they go, the Jews control everything, the media, the blah, blah, blibbity, blah. And, you know, even if they find one Jew at the bottom, they say it's a Jewish conspiracy. It's like 15 Islams and 45 Christians, but one Jew at the bottom. It's a Jewish conspiracy, what have you. But it's like this. If they was afraid that Jews was in control of the world and this and that and the other, why did they keep fucking pissing me off?
Yeah. There you
I
go.
can pick up, if that is true,
Yeah.
I'll pick up the motherfucking phone right now and end this whole charade.
Yeah. You know,
Why do they want to piss off people who have nuclear weapons is my question.
it makes no sense, right? Why would they do that? You know, and you know, in all seriousness, you look at what just happened in Israel. I mean, and you see what's
I know what really happened.
what's
now.
going on in the Ukraine. You see what China is threatening Taiwan.
China is in
yeah.
Israel.
Yeah, well, they're everywhere. While we're arguing pronouns,
Biden brought them there with Obama. They brought China right to the Middle East.
when we're arguing
Through
pronouns and we're arguing and attacking parents, China has been capacity building around the world, doing everything that the United States had been regarded as the peacekeeper, and China is doing that
with our technology that they stole from us.
absolutely. And you've had the FBI director testify no less than 4 times in the last year about the threats going on around the world and all the bells and whistles that he's hearing. Yet we still have an administration and a president that is refusing to take the border serious, that is not turning people away at the border, that was pushing a Senate bill that had no teeth to it. Yet you have a senator, the Senate majority leader, who refused to look at the House Republican bill that was a border security bill. Yet they just complain and they do nothing. And
Where's
again,
the
it's all
six?
about trade-offs.
Oh. It's not about trade-offs. It's about blackmail.
No. That's the
They own them
that's
people.
Blackmail is
It's
a
a
bad word.
chessboard.
Trade-off's a better word,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
That's how they'll say it.
You're
right.
right.
Yeah.
Or what do they say it? What was
Quid
that?
pro quo.
Quid pro quo, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what it is, right? And that's, you know, it really makes you again pause and think. And I hope people, as they go to their elections this year, that they pause and think and
There
say,
ain't gonna
what
be
in
no
the heck
election.
is really going on? You know,
Can I ask you one question real
Yeah.
quick?
They're going to find out when there's no election. But
The
go ahead,
Chinese
Jake.
nationals change in numbers, right? You said it was like from 700 to 10.
hundreds and then thousands.
When did that number spike? That was during Biden?
Yeah, 23 and 24, fiscal
So
year 23.
2 years in?
Yeah, the last 18
3.
months. So we're halfway through fiscal year 24.
Okay.
And all of 23 was around 24,500, and
So
now we've already exceeded that.
Just paint a picture. Trump builds a secure border, is tough on China with tariffs, loses an election, and Biden comes in, has a history of kicking money back from China through his son, taking 10% off the top, allegedly. And then within 2 or 3 years, the Chinese nationals that are illegally crossing the border, military-age
in
men,
mass, like we've never
goes
seen
up
before.
500%, 1,000%,
I think that's 5,000. How do you 450 to
5,000%. So that's really telling.
yeah,
We're
450
China's
to
police force.
25,000.
So to answer
whatever.
your question, why would a president do this? He's obviously, I mean, I think it's pretty clear he's an asset.
Yeah, well, even like I said, even if
It's
only
even
1%
worse than
of that
that, though.
25,000
Yeah.
were bad, and the other 99% were finally, hey, I'm free from communist China. That's still 1%. That's still a lot of people that could do this damage, right? And again,
And they're buying up land in Texas, Arizona.
they're buying up land in all 50
All the
states.
farmland.
That's why I said they have means. They're not illegals that are here like, oh, I'll wash your car for $5. They're buying thousands and thousands
That's why
of
I
acres.
won't sell my farmland in Hawaii because I can't.
Well, they're
let
not
no
crossing in there, luckily.
Chinese people have Hawaii.
Well, and they're a very, they're a very stoic, very very strong culture. They're very difficult to get information from. Very few that cross speak English, and if they do, it's broken. And so we have to use translation services. So even in with the best translation services, we know there may be something lost there. So it would be it's almost very difficult to figure out.
I like to watch Chinese grandmas with their Chinese grandchildren. That's where I learn about all cultures by watching the grandmas.
The dragon grandmas?
Yeah.
No, these women are hilarious. I already love them.
Yeah.
How they do to their grandkids is how I do to mine. So I'm like, these people are Jewish. That's how I'm looking at it. But here's the good news.
We need some good news.
China. The reason why Iran, Obama and Valerie Jarrett's wet dream of the Iran elections, which fail, #fail, is because what happened in Iran is an incredible spread of Christianity.
Right.
And they said that all the mosques were empty and were replaced by, these small groups of people doing Bible study in Iran. And I was involved in that too. Well, the same thing in China.
Yeah.
The Chinese people are converting to Christianity by the droves. And it's, the Enlightenment.
Right.
And, there's just a few tweaks in it. But the precepts and all that stuff is of kindness and awareness and personal, taking personal stock. And when you're wrong, admitting it. There can't be nothing better for this world.
Right.
And that is happening.
Yeah.
And I see it's happening here too. And people are like, we can't be sitting here on our fat Doritos eating ass complain about the government anymore. We have to get out there and get involved.
Yeah. That's one of the things, and I'm glad you mentioned that. And first of all, the spread of Christianity around the world is a good thing, and probably some percentage of the people that are fleeing those countries are being persecuted because of and those are the ones we want to protect, right? That's
what I'm thinking. That a lot of the people from China might be here for that reason.
And again, if that's the case, then we want to be that beacon of hope and help them.
Yeah.
But again, they are. We may not know that.
But some is.
But you mentioned something about getting involved, and I've spoken in about 18, 19 states over the last year and a half, and people always ask me that, and I'm like, if you're waiting for Washington to fix it,
no, that ain't going to
never happen. It really starts at the
supposed to happen.
Yeah, it's gonna. It
Locally,
really starts at the local level.
Yep.
It starts at that city mayor, that town council.
Yes.
Your county commissioners.
It starts at the school boards.
Yeah.
School boards, because that becomes education enforcement.
Grandmas to the school boards
even
immediately.
your POA.
Absolutely. If you can get education and law enforcement on that same page, we can actually fix a lot of issues here. But going back to
people with living souls, right?
Absolutely, because they're actually doing that nurturing piece, right?
Vampire robots, zombie types.
Well, look, your
they eat humans.
Those,
what you're saying? Oh, trafficking of humans. Well, let's get right to it. I mean, I'm a conspiracy theorist. You can call me all
conspiracy analyst. That's our
conspiracy analyst.
It's
but I know what they're doing. They're getting the organs and they're trafficking organs.
That too, sex.
There's all stuff on the internet about it. They take little children, like in Gaza. They just harvest their organs, tie them to a table. They don't even give them nothing to put them to sleep. Them organs is worth a lot, and especially in China.
So that isn't a conspiracy. That is a matter of fact.
Thank you, brother.
I've got some friends that are trafficking experts that have done the research, and I've heard the stories.
They've been calling me crazy for 25 years.
This is
happening. This is happening in a lot of these places in Mexico, in the stash houses,
especially.
So what happens is, and this is
they're vampires.
Well, what happens is
they crave human blood.
You have somebody that will say, my 14-year-old needs a kidney transplant.
Right.
And they will find a 14-year-old. Somebody has money. They'll go in there, and to your point, they will cut out that organ, and the transplant is there because it's being done in these third world countries. And that person is just
Gaza. Like they'll go to people, they say, we think you're a spy for Israel. Give us your 14-year-old. And then they take him in the tunnels and take out his organs.
Do you remember, it made headlines probably 10, 15, 20 years ago, and I may be wrong, but this time kind of,
Me too.
But there was all these missing women or these mass graves and mass dead bodies in Juarez.
Yeah.
I
Where
know
do we-
all about it.
so
They was doing it on the internet.
where
They
do
were
you
taking
what do you-
bets on the internet,
Do
honey.
you think those people weren't trafficked or organ harvest? I mean,
course.
these weren't just random prostitutes or people that were just
Let's
targeted.
talk about on the native reservations how they doing that right and left
Well,
while Elizabeth Warren sits up
I
there.
They
think
find 'em all the
that
time.
that is when you talk about the tribal and the Native American
They's
lands.
killing all the
It's
women.
very difficult to get involved there without the appropriate relationships. But
I have
those missing indigenous women. There's a lot of that stuff that's going on. That I think a lot of them are victims of trafficking
100%.
and
organ harvesting. So's the
That's right.
kids.
Organ, sex.
Because
CPS is all involved too,
I
taking
think
little
so,
black
too.
kids predominantly out of Chicago.
Yeah.
Predominantly black children out of Chicago and southern states. Florida too.
Yeah.
And send some of them to the Ukraine. They got labs in the Ukraine.
Yeah.
People think I'm crazy, but I'm only telling the truth, and
No,
I
we've
only
had-
tell it for God.
We've had
what?
Because
whistleblower.
we will be destroyed for what we allow to happen to children. God ain't looking the other way. God knows.
It may not be, well, how boring if we're not a little bit crazy every once in a while.
Right.
But the reality is even if just a small faction of the things that we're talking about is true,
Yes, it's
that's
all
horrible.
true.
Yeah.
It's all
you know what I
true.
mean? Haiti.
Yeah,
we've seen
Epstein
that.
Island. Hell yeah.
We've seen all that.
All
so
the black kids, they love them sweet,
not just
tender
black
black
kids.
child livers.
Well,
They do. They love the Iraqi livers too. They love the Syrian livers of children because
I think
they
they just
never
like
had
liver.
Monsanto poisoning
Yeah.
or any of the thousands of inoculations. They dig that. They
Yeah.
dig the organ meats.
Yeah, it's
They're
pure blood.
devil
Yeah.
worshippers.
It's pure blood meat.
everybody's got
They're
to pause,
baby drinking, baby blood drinking, Democrat donor, pedophile Satanists,
Yeah.
Nazis.
Yeah, it's what is going on in those,
God
people's
ain't gonna
minds
let it
makes
stand.
makes no sense. And at the end of the day, I wish people would have these type of conversations. And I always like conversations that make you pause. I may not agree with you.
I'm the queen of that.
But I want you to pause and think it
And
through
go,
and say, hey,
Jesus Christ, that woman is correct. Wait a minute.
wait a sec. She's correct
Correct.
because there was a handful of
you.
missing children
Thank you, son.
that showed up here, right? So anytime
I've seen it since I went to Hollywood and always been involved. We're going to have Dr. Lois Lee on of trafficked children. We used to go down to Hollywood Boulevard. She had a van. She has an amazingly successful
Children of the
organization
night.
that saves
Yeah.
children off the streets in prostitution
It's very
and
cool.
slavery to pimps. And then she rehabilitates them. And it's an amazing process. She has an 85% success rate.
I work with a very good friend of mine lives just
Children of the Night.
Okay. Who lives, pretty close by here with his organization, Riptide Society.
Cool.
And what that is about foster children and those that are helping foster families who are doing the best they can, but also, which really was, I thought was, I did not really think about this, but when they age out, like, do we just expect them that if they've had, some of them get really good families and they're taken care of and they're loved and it's the best thing, but then there's so many of them that just weren't, right? And we just expect them to be okay after aging out.
They're trafficked.
Well, so there's a lot of that, right? So that's what this organization does. And I think it's just so important because this is where it ties into the border, right? We're dealing with people. Whether we agree or disagree, whether the audience agrees or disagrees, at the end of the day, the common denominator is these are human beings
Right.
and they are being exploited in some way, shape, or form through their governments, through their traffickers, through their families, through people that are wanting to harvest their organs. And until we have somebody in taking up a leadership role like in the United States to say, enough's enough, we're going to secure the border, we're going to create policies that are going to protect America first and protect the people that are trying to come here the right way. It's the only way we can even eventually try to push back on some of this horror that we've discussed when it comes down to people's lives, whether it's...
I call that the activation of God's intelligence in the human being.
Well, and I think that the other night at the convention, I heard Tucker Carlson talk about, and he talked about his belief, but what I really liked about it is he's among us. and that's the biggest
That's
thing, right?
right.
I may not be as good as I should be on things, and I shouldn't be pray more than I should, or pray more than I am.
He don't
But-
expect us to be
But
perfect.
as long as he's among us, we're going to be okay. And
Yeah.
I think that that's important, especially when you're looking at, what are we here for? What's our purpose? And regardless of what God you believe in, if you believe in a higher power and,
Well,
and a
there's only
purpose,
one.
and that's the most important piece, right? You've got to believe in that,
There's only one everything.
right?
What can we do? I mean, other than
Listen,
getting
I
Trump
think this is
elected.
the good
Oh,
news, and we'll end with this and some good news. I always like to bring good news to people because what they've sat through with me and you talking is a lot of horror.
Yeah, it's
but it's
bad.
fact.
It's bad. Yeah,
But they need to know it. They can't be ignorant.
Right.
God don't want you to be ignorant.
Right.
So, we have the greatest Supreme Court justice that's ever sat there, and that's Justice Thomas.
Mhm.
And because of him, the Supreme Court reversed the Chevron deference, whatever it was called, amendment or law,
Mhm.
which came from elites. No American voted for it.
right.
But he reversed it because it was judicial fiat. It didn't come from the people. Legislation is supposed to come from the people who elect representatives who create legislation.
Right.
That's what they don't like. They
Right.
don't like small governments or the people having any voice in how they live and what affects them with the taxes they pay.
Right.
Right.
But it was reversed, and it is so huge.
Mhm.
It hasn't even filtered down to people to even begin to explain what it's about. And I wanted to talk to you about that because what it said, it is the end of the administrative state,
Right.
which is such a great blow in favor of our Constitution and our constitutional republic.
Right.
We will not be ruled by unelected, elitist, baby blood drinking Democrat donors.
Right.
We're not
Judges.
going for that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, people, got to realize, right? So we elect a government of the people, we the people. And then we have an executive that is elected by the people, the President of the United States. But everything beneath that is
Appointed.
an unelected
Yeah.
bureaucrat, if you will. Even the secretaries, even though they're confirmed, right? But then it's their staff that end up making all these policies, decisions. And so if you do not have the proper checks and balances, or
If you don't go through the correct constitutional channels,
Right.
like Jack Smith
Right.
and all this
Yeah.
crap, if you want to have lawfare instead of constitutional law, you just lost big time.
Right.
This reversal pretty much abolishes the whole communist state.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm so happy.
No, it's a good thing.
NGOs will not have anything to do with schools, with trade.
Oh, I didn't realize it was that
Well,
level.
I'll even bring it back to kind of
That's
my
great.
expertise, the border security and the immigration piece. Only Congress can establish a level of non-citizen or an immigrant classification, not the executive. And when this current administration has been using the parole program, which is by a case-by-case individual basis, they've been abusing that by paroling in at large 30,000 a month from people from 4 different countries. That is a misuse because only the the legislative branch can create a classification of people. So they have been using that. So that this type of ruling helps with those that are challenging the legal parole program. As a chief, I was able to parole somebody in for a humanitarian reason, like they got their leg blown off, they need to get a medical, or they were going to be a witness in a prosecution. But you didn't parole in 30,000 people from Cuba, Venezuela, Nicaragua because you think it's the right thing to do.
Right.
That's unlawful. Only Congress can establish that classification. So these type of rulings give power to saying, hey, if the American people want to expand immigration or reduce immigration or create another class, it's done through the electorate, through voting the representatives into Congress. This is where
That's
those
the
type of rulings help out
Constitution.
and put it back to the novel idea that was the U.S. Constitution that gives the power to the people.
Of the people, by the people, and for the people. Long may it wave.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for being, just allowing me to be here and have this conversation. We talked about a lot of different things, but I want to make sure that I leave you and your audience with just a couple things. It is so fundamentally important to this nation that we have a secure border.
Yes.
Stop conflating immigration and border security. Make it about securing the border. Let's fix the leak instead of just trying to bail water. We need to secure our border so we can take care of our country, our communities, our children. That's the most important piece. We can figure out the rest of it down the road, but you can't start if you don't have a solid foundation. That starts with a secure border. So when we can kind of separate those two.
And a secure border begins with truth, because as my friend Mary Daly said, there is no liberty without truth.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. And the truth starts with a secure border. I love that, because it is important that we do that, because the American people deserve that. Even the migrants that are attempting to come over here the right way deserve us to do things to uphold the integrity of what is right. And again, I'm a firm believer that walls work where they make when they're deployed where they make sense. The technology works. Our agents need the support from an administration that backs them, because they're out there saving lives and protecting us.
Yeah.
So again, we stop conflating the two, and we focus on border security.
We also need to really look closely at American foreign policy in the State Department.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we need to look at, has our government already been infiltrated by people who don't mean the best for the taxpayer?
Oh, I have no doubt. I have no doubt. I've been in there and into those high level meetings, and when policies are discussed, and it's like, this is not what the law says, and they're like, well, policy gives us these type of latitudes, and I'm like, that's not right. And those are issues that work themselves out, but it shouldn't be that way. It should be about securing the border first.
Justice Thomas, because he just took all that away from them, from the slave owners.
Yeah.
He just reversed the right of the slave owners.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about, well, if you really look at things and where they lead, which you have to do if you're going to be conscious.
Right.
Like the United States, when Hillary Clinton and all them killed Gaddafi, that was the most woman-friendly, pro-African man and government in the whole world. And what they do in Libya right now is they're selling black people as slaves for $400. That's what it costs to buy a black person in Libya. So that is the progressive values that the Democrat Party brought to Libya. And my friend who was on here last podcast, we said, let's raise a whole bunch of money and buy a whole bunch of slaves, black slaves from Libya, bring them over here. I said, yeah, but I'm going to make them help me pick up the garbage around here, the work that needs to be done, for a week or two, and then free them.
Yeah.
But that's...
Gavin McInnes, of course.
But, because we're always looking at, as people who are supporters of the Republic, of the constitutional Republic of the United States of America, who made slavery illegal, which they never tell nobody, that's what we're supposed to stand for now in this century. An end to slavery. And under the Democrat policy, there are more slaves in the United States now than there have ever been.
What I mentioned, they want servants over citizens, and because citizens will eventually stand their ground. That is why the whole of government approach, and again, this is under this utopia mindset that we're all working together in the right reason. We have to secure the border. We have to have strong consequences for those that exploit our laws, exploit the people,
our children,
most importantly, right? Because we got to leave it better than we got it. But also, like you said, the foreign policy, the State Department needs to be the right people that are looking at America's. It's not wrong to look at America's best interests, because until we get America right, we can't take care of anybody else.
Right.
It's like, as a parent, if I'm not right, how can I expect to take care of my wife and kids? And why are we looking at the country any different? Why are we giving billions? I'm all about helping our allies, but charity starts at home.
That's right.
We've got to be able to take care of America first, and then be willing to help out others. And sometimes we have to do that at the same time, but not at the
I think we should ask our allies to assist us.
Well, I don't disagree with you. We saw that when people had to pay their fair share at NATO and how things were and things were peaceful.
They're
But-
like, huh?
Yeah. What does that mean? But
They're like my kids. What?
I'm glad to know everybody's kid does that. What?
You know what a good analogy for your analogy is, and when I listen to you, is a tourniquet. It's you've got an open wound that's bleeding,
Yeah.
and you have to tie it off. You have to stop the bleeding. Then you can get it surgically fixed. Then you can find out where the shock came from or the injury came from. But you have to stop the bleeding first. And that's basically what I hear you saying is there's a million things we can talk about, but until that border's secured, it's all null and void. We can't
Because
even
that
get to
border,
it. I love
the
that.
border
Simple.
insecurity, really what it is
It starts there.
it's taking all the taxpayers' money and sending it all over the world out of the United States so we don't get schools, hospitals, roads, or anything for our taxes.
Jake's analogy
That's
right
why
there.
we fucking had the Declaration of Independence.
Absolutely.
Hello?
Yep. Jake's analogy is spot on, right? You have to stop that bleeding. You know, otherwise everything you do is not going to save that person.
You're gonna
If their
bleed to death.
femoral artery is blown up and you don't put the tourniquet above the wound, he's going to bleed out. And that's what's happening right now under this administration. That's what his bipartisan Senate bill would have done. It would have continued the bleeding. The HR 2 that sat there and still sits in Schumer's inbox is the tourniquet waiting to shut off the bleed. And this administration has not done that. Those executive orders is bleeding out. There's nothing there to secure the border. It's there to help facilitate and put caps on those that have crossed illegally, having the right to claim asylum. But 10 and 20,000 people a day could come across, but only 2,500 over a 7-day average could claim asylum. The rest have to go back and wait in line. That is not a tourniquet. That is putting Band-Aids on an open wound that's not healing it. And I love the way
what
you put
I
that.
love is
spot
that
on.
if they did tell all these immigrants or illegal aliens, whatever they're, that they could vote, here's what I say, what I pray for. Y'all, you left a shithole and don't bring it here. You got to vote Trump. If they let you vote, vote Trump.
And you can stay here if you vote Trump.
You know, we won't come after you if you vote Trump.
It doesn't. It's not just around the world. It happens in our own country. They leave policies in California and come over and
that's what we did.
I mean, that fucking crazy ass news scum, that fucking crazy ass son of a bitch,
Satan.
that's Nancy
He's pure
Pelosi's
Satan.
demonic satanic nephew. He just passed the bill that made Elon Musk leave California.
Yeah, you know,
because it's like how parents have no rights. If their kid goes, oh, my balls itch, well, that's because you're a girl.
Yeah,
they take your kid from you.
You know, that's another thing,
it's
right?
trafficking because they go like, oh, we could do all of our Nazi experiments on their genitals and touch them a lot.
Yes.
He was on.
And the insurance company will pay for it because our baby blood drinking Democrat donors sell insurance.
And then you don't have to tell the parents anymore because parents is what gets in the way of the Democrat baby blood drinkers.
I've just never
they want them organs.
That.
They want those black livers. They want those black children
Roseanne Barr
livers.
podcast. Are you
I'm
glad
telling
you
you
came
the truth, and I've been saying it for a long time.
I tell you what,
black children livers are with melanin.
There's a t-shirt.
They are the highest bidded livers for these fucking vampires.
Hillary
when
loves
people
the Haitian
figure
livers.
out that the whole border shit is for a genocide on Black America, then they'll go, oh, Roseanne, you were telling us the truth the whole time. And that is what it is. It's a genocide on the working class, which is largely black, and I hate white people in the working class too. So you better start talking to each other and stop on the hate. And as I say, our only hope is to take the hate that they forced on us to feel for each other and instead point it upwards at the people who actually create this shit for once. And God's going to see that happen this time. I feel it.
I hope so. I hope we get it right. We've got to. We
have to save each other.
Yes.
Hey,
Nobody
Chris,
else is.
If Biden gets 300 million votes, which is what I'm expecting.
Yeah, 300 million votes.
It's most of 3 in the morning.
3 times what he got last time.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
Well,
That's
he's got 3,
gonna
4, 5 a.m. He's going to get 3 times. But if, let's
Everybody
say...
in China is going to vote for him.
That's right.
10 times over. But anyway, let's say he does stay president and we got 4 more years of this. Are we going to still have a country in 4 years?
No,
we are because Iran, God bless Iran, and they kicked out Obama and Valerie Jarrett in the Iran deal. So everybody needs to be aware of that because along with the Chevron deference thing, Bitch, you lost.
But if Biden's still
But
president
here's-
with
here's
these
what I
Biden
see
is
happening.
going to resign 2 days after he
well, then
accepts.
whatever. 4 more years of this.
If we have 4 more
policy.
years of this, there's 2 ways this can go, right? They're gonna, why buy the cow if you get the milk free, right? So
Right.
whatever they're planning,
That's what all my husband said.
whatever they're planning, they can continue this
Right.
because they can continue to mass their army. They can continue to exploit the people that are being exploited.
Right.
Our policies, our laws, the American worker, even the corruptions, the
Right.
corrupt politicians, and all that stuff. Why end it?
Right.
Because American workers ain't going
Just
to
have
let
to
them
keep
do
talking.
it.
Well, that's my hope, is that people have woken up. That's why we continue to talk about this.
You want to go back to $2 an hour, bitches? You better get busy.
That's right, right. Well, to Jake's question
Yeah.
is, if we continue with this same administration for 4 more years, we will be in a world of hurt. We may not see it
Right.
change,
I
but
agree.
it's changing because that's my concern. And if we get it right in November and we have a President Trump that is in office, it's going to be a very interesting 60 days or whatever it is to inauguration, because I
Yeah.
think that's the time where I would be concerned, because
too.
I'll
people are
tell
gonna
you,
act,
I'm
right?
not concerned at all
It's more scary
because,
if Trump wins.
as I say in my act to these liberals and, well, everybody really, you might have your plans and you might make them and they might be, enshrined in gold.
Somebody else has got a plan for
But I'd like you to meet my little friend. You may not know him. You may never know or ever heard of him, but his name is God.
Yeah.
And he is in control, and he's smarter than all y'all.
you. Yeah.
And he'll get what he wants.
I don't disagree with you on that, but in our physical earth here,
Yeah.
I that's where I would just be. I would be watching my back, like I'm watching here.
You're looking at the usual suspect.
Yeah.
That's a mass murder right
Yes.
there.
So we've got to get it right, and but here's where I will say, and I mentioned earlier, I've been in a lot of states the last 18 months speaking about the border. Is I can tell you, whether it was New Hampshire, the Carolinas, Michigan, Iowa, all
Love
points in
Iowa.
between. It was a great time there. People are fed up.
Yeah,
they're
they are.
waking up and they're tired
They
of it,
had it.
and they've seen that this is it's
Black
like
and white is seeing it.
Oh yeah, well,
pure.
absolutely, because again, they tried. What has happened to the middle class, right? And the working class has been been
Replaced.
replaced, right? And no one's helping them
Scourged.
out.
Yeah.
Yep.
Impoverished.
But I think that people are fed up
Arrested.
and they're going to act,
Incarcerated.
and I think
I
that
hope you're
writing
right.
is on the wall.
I do say, they always say this is the most important election every year, but this is the most important election.
Well, that's why I say, and we'll end with my toast to the American people. Here's where it comes down to.
Yeah.
God wants me to say
Ching,
this
ching,
to
ching.
you because the Lord's put it on my heart, as they say. To all you people who've never voted, which is 45% of this country, you and I'm not going to vote because it don't make no difference. Okay, maybe that's true. It's all fixed. I don't matter what I vote. Maybe that's all true. But right now, it's up to you. Give it a try.
yeah, give it a
For
shot.
this once, register to vote and vote for Trump for your best interests and the interests of your kids and your grandchildren. We don't want to send our working class off to die in war in Ukraine. We don't want nuclear holocaust. We want peace. We want prosperity. And we want to get along with our neighbors and people we don't necessarily agree with. We want to be able to discuss shit with them. We don't want to call them down and demonize them because that's the way of Satan. You better go and you better vote. I'm doing it. You do it just this once. Thank you so much for viewing, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for
You're
having
a great
me.
American.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I mean that. Thank you.
So you see